Welcome back to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. That's me. So, as we are progressing, I was asked to look in something that, hello Ulrika, instead of being supernatural and paranormal, was just plain weird. So, to give us a break in what we've been looking at, which has gotten increasingly rabbit-holey and strange, we're going to do a look that is possibly more weird than paranormal, just for the interest thereon. But I think it will be a worthwhile little go, shall we call it that. Now, as you know, we generally wander around the different countries of the world, one after the other, different cultures, and look at things. This one is going to be a little bit more scattershot, because rather than the general and the ordinary, what we are mostly going to be looking at are the more weird or interesting. Now, I think it would be a reasonable truth to say that in terms of human invention, the things whereby humanity has put in the most effort in inventing, discovering, and improving, I think it would be very fair to say that in warfare is most likely going to be where the biggest efforts have gone. And I think that very few people would disagree with that. We might like it to be other, but in real truth, when it comes to human invention, where the biggest effort has been put, it's pretty much all to war. But when you actually get back and have a look at all of these things, hey there, Dot, welcome back. I think it would be reasonably fair to say that they fall into certain categories. The first category I would mention would be, yes, very effective. They did what it was meant to do. It was a success in that regard. But that isn't always the case. Then you get the ones that are, shall we say, deeply specific. They work very, very well in the situation for which they were invented, but probably would be fairly useless elsewhere, which is fair. And then the third category that seems to turn up, and these categories are random, I invented them for my own personal amusement, in case you're wondering. The third category are the ones where the theory was great, but the practice was probably fairly dumb, where things kind of got away with themselves. But nevertheless, we're going to have a look at some of all of these things from all over the world and see what we think, and whether or not we think they are worthy of being used, I suppose. Now, we know that in terms of combat, you can also sort of classify things in two other ways. The first of the two is to say that, sorry about that, I will let you on now. I was just hands going. I missed who that was because I had a thing over the top. Deary, deary me. Who is wanting to join my live? And I can't see because I can't see who is on at the moment. Oh, there you are. Let me do the addings. Weapons and armor that was actually made for war. It was designed for war, and it was intended for war, and that was what its point was. And then we have the... Hello! How are you doing?
Okay, thank you.
Good, good, good. Are you feeling a bit better?
No, very tired.
Shame.
Okay.
I'm glad you're okay. You seemed a little fluish the last time.
Yeah, no, it's better now, but
I'm very glad to hear that. So, in accordance with the request of Ask for My Name, we are actually going to be covering something non-supernatural and paranormal just for a break. To see, yes, so strange and unconventional weapons and armor from around the world. So, I don't know if you would agree, but it seems to me, at least from looking at things, that when it comes to human invention, the place we've put the most effort is in terms of war. That's where we've really gone all out to put in the effort of invention. And sometimes it's worked, and sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to look at a few of the things. I see we have White Nut wants to join. I don't know White Nut. And yeah, I'm afraid we've had way too many trolls on the channel, so because I don't know you and I've never seen you on the live or on my list of followers before, I'm going to have to deny that for now, because we've had some very bad and rude experiences. Which brings me, of course, to the important intro. On this channel we have but one rule. And the rule is you are not allowed to be rude. And if you are rude, we will not only boot you off, we will report you, block you, and really make a serious effort to have you eradicated from TikTok, because we don't allow it. Okay, so that is a very, very important point. That said, we do appreciate a great deal of comments, likes, shares, subscribes, and all the good things. And we demand that Mickey gives us a bite of whatever she's eating because it looks nice. I'm not allowed those. There's too much sugar for me, alas.
oh, that's sad. I'm sorry.
Well, it's my own fault. I'll tell you that story one day. I made myself diabetic, which was probably a very bad idea. No. But yeah. So, okay, guys, let's pull a vote here. White Knight wants to share a paranormal experience. We don't know him, but he says he's very, very keen. Shall we give him a try?
Sure, why not?
Okay, we're gonna give a try to 2 people. If it goes south, then we will do terrible things to them.
Wow, and it's so warm. Like, what the hell is this for?
So,
Come on. What is this?
Ivan, welcome, welcome. Your TV is going in the background there quite severely.
You can see he just saw something and said, all right, that's what I'm going to do now. Happen. I mean, the wall like this, I don't know what the street is called.
Yeah, I know. That was very strange. Okay, so the user did not exist. We did send an invite to White Nut, but he has vanished. Okay, well, nevertheless, we are going to go on with what we are doing regardless, because that's what we want to do. So, weapons of war and armor and such things. Where does one begin? Well, there are a number which I'm going to say that while from a modern perspective you might not think too much of them, but in their time they were pretty damn impressive. And really and truly it's... Hey Jay, you're alive. How are you doing?
Are you?
You sound very sad. Why are you sounding sad? Or are you just tired?
Because I'm tired. Yeah, and because I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna rejoin. I can hear my microphone freaking out.
I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. Hopefully it will resolve itself. Oh, and he vanished too. Oh no. He's obviously got signal issues. He said he was suffering. Nevertheless, so the first one, and by the way, this is a disclaimer for... I have things falling on me from overhead that were put up by the kids, that were they put up over my desk, and now they're not properly stuck up, so now they're falling down.
Now I'm back.
You're back, sir. I'm glad you are back. So,
Yeah, I'm Slam Shady. Guess who's back?
there you are.
Go again. I wanna be a potato again.
You be a potato, and we are going to talk about weapons and warfare and armor. So the first thing, and by the way, as I said, full disclaimer here, my ability to pronounce these words is severely limited. So if I completely stuff them up, please forgive me. Because we are dealing with, the first one is an Aztec weapon. So, who knows what about the Aztecs?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so the Aztecs. There are three major peoples that originally lived in South America. The Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Olmecs. At least that we know about. Obviously, there could be plenty we don't know about. But those are the ones we know about. And the Aztecs were particularly known for, amongst other things, being fairly violent. They were known for their human sacrifices, which don't do that at home, kids. However, they did invent a very, very early version of a sword called a maculhuitl. Now, what I want you to imagine, okay, if you wanted to make one of these kind of things, you basically would take a flattened version of a, well, imagine a cricket bat.
Notes.
You could be.
Oh, I know what it is.
Okay.
Take a cricket. Oh no, but that's not a cricket bat. That's a baseball bat. Never mind.
Okay, so take a cricket bat, which is flat, and along the outside edge, you line it with sharpened obsidian, creating basically... Right? Okay, so your obsidian is volcanic glass, so you can knock it into pieces that are incredibly sharp, right?
I'm just doing what you call it, subscriber points, so I can...
Yes, I see that, and I thank you greatly for it. Remember, guys, like, share, and subscribe. It's important. So, and comment, yes. Listen to the man. So, basically, you've got this razor-sharp volcanic glass around a cricket bat, about as heavy as a cricket bat. Now, as you can imagine, that would not do you any good if somebody whacked you with one of those. And these were used as a kind of early sword by the Aztecs. And they, Yeah, absolutely, because each piece of obsidian would have to be fairly small. So instead of having a long straight edge, you've got a lot of sharp, jagged edges. So in terms of weapons, was it a bit primitive? Yes. Was it effective? Hell yes. And when the conquistadors, who had, of course, proper iron and metal weapons, arrived there, they actually recorded that they had a seriously hard time fighting some of the Aztec warriors because of these incredible weapons. They were really, really impressive. So just because it's weird doesn't mean it doesn't work. Now, along with that, we see a number of other type of weapons around the world. We'll go more into South America and others, but another interesting one is the pinga, which comes from Africa.
The what?
Pinga. Now,
So,
imagine, if you will, okay, take the handle of a knife. Now, instead of...
wait. Okay, I don't have a knife. I'll use an imaginary knife.
Yes, okay. Now, instead of having a single blade coming out, you have something that looks like the branches of a tree. So, essentially, it's got multiple points all over. And it was an African-style throwing knife. And the handle tended to be so short that it only fit about 2 fingers.
You're making me get hurt by my back. What if you're running from someone and pitching?
Yes, now... It's thrown flat, okay, in a sort of arc. And yeah, because of the number of points and the very minimal handle, however it hits, it's gonna hit with a point.
But how do you throw it?
You throw it like a frisbee.
Oh, like boom.
Yes. So
Enough, wait, let me also...
very, very effective again, but very strange. I'm not entirely certain how you safely carried it.
It's better than a gun.
Well, you can pick it up and use it again and again and again, I suppose. So you have that. Now, that actually, remember the point of better than a gun, because the next interesting weapon worth talking about is a thing which is incorrectly called the English longbow. It wasn't English. It was Welsh. Now,
What they call it English?
because the English army had these Welsh longbowmen in it. So the Welsh fought... Yes, you can.
I just saw someone's username that said Mr. Dicky. Mr. Dicky, get it?
Oh dear. So understand that the Welsh longbowmen were hired by the English when they went to war because of their effectiveness. Now, essentially, by law, the Welsh longbowmen, by law, under the command of the king, you started at the age of 7, whereupon you would be given a long staff, okay, so a 6-foot stick, which you had to hold out in front of you without letting it fall until you could hold it for up to 4 hours in front of you.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now, why? The reason is because it strengthens your arms and shoulders so that you can pull a bow. Now, when you...
I saw this video, this guy, he stole something, right? So they let me, like, I don't know if it was, what is those called again? Come on, it is you. What is it called? Not pounds, the weight in South Africa?
Kilograms.
Kilograms, yeah. They made him carry like 20 kilograms and he couldn't like, sit down or anything, and so he had to just stand there while his legs gave out.
Well, it's actually a lot harder than you think. Now, the reason being here is you start training on what they call a 60-pound bow. Now, I can pull a 60-pound bow. I'm reasonably certain that without training, Mickey, you could pull a 60-pound bow. No
And
problem.
you have master's class?
Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know.
No, it's doable. It's not terrible at all. Then you move up to an 80-pound bow, and that's about my limit. Okay. Eventually, when properly trained, you move on to a 180-pound bow. Now, I saw them shoot an arrow with an 180-pound bow once. Okay. And what they did, that's what they...
Hunting.
No.
Because my brother-in-law does hunting with a bow.
His will be between around 120 and 140. You will not be able to pull it. 180 pound is almost unpullable except by the specially trained. Now what these guys
Not
did,
120 pounds in meters. I mean,
well,
couple of
let
I
me
mean,
let me explain what it means.
kilograms.
A pound, you get about 2 pounds to a kilogram, roughly.
Pounds. So
So
I don't know what to say.
you're talking around a 90 kilogram draw pull on the bow. Okay. Now remember, you've got to pull it with 2 fingers, and it's a string. So that's hell of a...
What are we talking about?
We're talking about a Welsh longbow. Now what these guys did,
Wait, aren't we supposed to be talking about legends, urban legends, and all? What are you going to
we're doing
about
weapons and armor
guns?
to make a break. Weird ones and interesting ones, just for a break.
We could talk about torture devices.
So there might be some in this. Hold on. So imagine an oak door. So solid oak, about an inch and a half to 2 inches thick. Okay. Take 10 of them and set them up one after each other about a foot apart. Okay. So now you've got all these solid oak boards that they've set up. They then took a 9mm Glock as comparison, using a standard ball round. And when they fired it at the oak door, it went through one door and lodged in the second. Okay, so that's a 9mm, right? They
Like
took,
gun.
yes, a 9mm Glock. So it got through one door and lodged in the second door. So that's how powerful a
What type
9mm. Standard
What
ball
type of
round.
Glock? There's a Glock 18, there's a Glock 19, there's a Glock 17.
Those are different sizes of
Oh yeah,
magazine.
that one's sometimes.
It's a 9mm is a 9mm. Okay, so
Again, not
standard
again.
9mm. All right.
Someone to train again.
So I'm not going to answer that question because that sounds very strange. Welcome
But I
to
was gonna
Endless
say
Thoughts. I saw her just joined. Okay, so now they took this Welsh longbow and they fired it at the same set of doors.
Oh,
All right.
damn! Look what he said. He's calling us a dual.
Yes. So where the 9mm Glock managed to get through one door and stuck in the second, the arrow from the longbow went through 6 doors and lodged halfway through the 7th. That's how powerful the bow is. Okay. Then, now,
The bow. Oh, I thought you
yes.
said boat.
These guys were trained, as I said, from the age of 7. So round about the age of between 25 and 30.
Why'd she live?
Yes, she ran away. She doesn't like weaponry. Okay. So round about the age of 25 to 30, these guys are so good with the bow that they can shoot an arrow straight up into the air and have it hit the bullseye of a target at 500 meters lying flat on the ground. Okay. They can
people
shoot
join.
arrows.
Oh yeah, and I hit a new score on my live streams. I hit 41 people.
That is awesome. Well done.
but then 25 left in the first 10 seconds.
Well, it happens. Okay, now, these are guys who can
Okay,
shoot a bow so fast that the average guy, what
My
happened?
internet disconnected.
I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're back. We thought you were tired of us. Okay, so these guys
I'm a
can
potato, but I'm laying
shoot.
sideways.
That's because you're a dead potato. So,
I
a
am dead.
these guys can put 8 arrows in the air at once on average. Now, when you talk of what they called arrow rain in medieval documents, imagine 200 Welsh archers, all of this level, with 180-pound bows, putting 8 arrows in the air, each at once, able to hit a bullseye on a target at 500 meters when the target is lying flat. In other words, if you're behind a wall, they can put an arrow up and still hit you, even though you're behind the wall. Right. So they say that when 200 archers fire at once, all their 8 arrows in a go, all you can hear is the rattling of the feathers, the goose feathers on the arrows. And you get this horrible buzz, and then everything just goes flat. The sky goes dark, it goes black from the arrows blocking the sun, and then everybody dies. Now, to give you an idea of how dangerous it was, at the Battle of Agincourt, there were 300 archers on the one side, and there were 1,800 armed knights on the other side. And at the end of the battle, which lasted about half an hour, there were 2 injuries.
Isn't that the shortest battle that ever happened?
I don't know if it's the shortest, but it's one of the shortest. But what basically happened was there were 2 minor injuries on the side of the archers. Minor, as in I got a small cut. There was nobody left on the other side.
Oh.
Half an hour.
Wait, why?
Because archery, when you're fully trained, is that scary. Every single one.
Did they die?
All of them.
Oh, sure, okay.
Now, why are guns more popular than bows? Well, the thing is, anybody can shoot a gun. But it takes 20 years to learn to shoot a bow like that.
Wait, but if
That's
you
the
use a bow,
difference.
You can just reuse it instantly if you like shoot. Then you can go run to the
Well,
thingy thing.
if
They
there
can take-
there
and
was,
you can use the thing that you like. Yeah, you know what I mean. You can just like bash into the stars like boom, boom, boom.
well, there are certain things where that might come up. So hold on and see. Now, next interesting thing which shows the interest of human beings in basically hitting somebody else is the most common interesting type thing. We have many names for this. The Irish call it a shillelagh. We would call it a knobkerrie. And it is probably the most common weapon in the world, which shows how effective it is.
Finally, I can get eaten now.
Now, you also have a number of other weapons we're going to look at, including combination weapons, where they were definitely over-invented. And some of them didn't work.
Wait, can I say something?
Yes.
I just wanted to tell you, and you should be proud because you're like a father to me, but on live streams. I hit
Wow.
3,000 viewers, like, during all my live streams that I did.
That is good. 3,000 is pretty
It's
good.
not. That's in 2 weeks.
It's a good start. Be patient. It takes a while.
I'm only by stage 7.
Well, you get there eventually. You build up. It's
What stage are you
incremental. I have no idea. I haven't looked lately.
can. It shows after the live. Like, it says something, then it plays a damn song, ting, 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 and
Yes, after the live, but we are currently on the live. But I will look. Now, we obviously know
some
in
horror videos.
terms of weapons and armor, there are a great many things that are used, some of which are improvised. I mean, you pick up a book, you can use it, and they have been. We know that there are all kinds of interesting homemade explosives and what have you, some of which are very weird. In World War II, there was an experimental project whereby they strapped explosives to bats to release over enemy targets. It really was tried. It didn't work.
Or, hear me out. You could take the small bomb, like a small one, small, but it's effective. You can hide it in listen, you can hide it in your butt crack, and then when the searchers are gonna say, okay, he doesn't have anything, then just boom, man.
They do that in
Sure, someone said
prisons.
it, guarantee.
They do that in prisons, and sometimes it does not go well, believe me. Hey, Caleb, I see you've joined as well. Welcome, welcome.
What about the boiling water and sugar?
We will get to that in due course, and we're not trying to teach people how to make these things on the channel. We're talking about them, yes. These are things that are absolutely, do not try this at home. Hello there.
You said love, why is he saying love?
He is very probably of British origin, which is, it's an accent thing and a regional thing. Now,
Oh yeah, anyways, I'm gonna go react to something.
one of the weirdest,
Bye.
okay, what,
Yay. So wait, when does it end? At 12.
yes,
I'll be here before 12.
okay, we shall see you then. Eat less sugar. Yes, so, faster banana bread is indeed British. I thought I recognized, and I'm going to take a guess here, and I'm going to say he's very probably from the south of England, probably Sussex area. We'll see if he says it is. Now, one of the weirdest and most mistaken weapons ever made. You see, I told you I was right. I know a Sussex person when I see one. Would you believe that one of the most ineffective weapons ever made was the atomic bomb? And here's why. First of all, they didn't intend to make it. Albert Einstein was one of the people who developed the thing. Spooky Streamers thought, welcome, good evening. But they realized the military application, so to speak, and were like, this is bad, we shouldn't have developed it. Because they were trying to create a form of permanent energy. However, this is where things went wrong, because the American military said, we like this. Now, the first place that they tested one out was on the Bikini Atoll. Yes, your swimsuit that is called a bikini is called that after the Bikini Atoll, which is a coral atoll in the Pacific Ocean. Hello there. How are you doing? You have renamed yourself.
I am.
Awesome. Welcome onto the live. So we're talking weaponries and strange things. So basically what they did is they went ahead and they dropped a small version of the atomic bomb on the Bikini Atoll. What they didn't do, which is probably quite important, is tell the local islanders that they were going to do it.
Oh dear.
Yes, and you can imagine where that went. And there are still problems in that regard. Thank you for the likes. So right off bat, we've got a number of issues with the atomic bomb. Then, if you ever want to give yourself absolute nightmares, okay? It is findable on YouTube, and I actually did locate it the other day. I must try and find it again. You can listen to the radio broadcast from the Enola Gay. Now, if you don't know what the Enola Gay was, it was the aircraft that went ahead and dropped the very first nuclear bomb on Japan. I cannot remember if it was Nagasaki or Hiroshima. I think it was Hiroshima first, which is an interesting story in and of itself. But basically, you hear the guy, it's all very technical. He flies over, he says, bombs have been released at so many feet, he flies on, and then he flies back over to ensure that he struck target. And over the radio, you hear him say, it's all gone. And the guy on the other side says, what's gone? And he just says, everything.
Jeez, that's creepy.
And if you ever, you know how they say you can hear in somebody's voice if they're scared? Let me tell you, if you want to hear absolute terror, you hear his voice. It was chilling. Welcome to Endless Thoughts. She's popped on again and hidden at the bottom. But she is nevertheless here, and she is very much welcome. Good evening to you, my dear. And yes, she is real. I was chatting to her today. So, yeah. Now, as we progress, let's talk about some very interesting things. They invented, for reasons we don't know, a particularly kind of small revolver. And this one used a triangular bullet. Now, you might wonder why. And in all honesty, the answer is we don't really know why he chose triangular, because it certainly doesn't work with the rifling you find in a modern firearm. His firearm did not have rifling. It was very short range. But it doesn't require a reciprocating motion when chambering and ejecting a cartridge. So some advantage, some disadvantage. Came in 11 or 15 round magazines and even a 20 round magazine. And apparently it was very popular for a while because of the way that it worked. And it fitted exactly into the revolving chamber perfectly every time. So weird in that regard. And we're being grinned at by Endless Thoughts. I'm going to grin back just because I can. Ta-da! Now, these are all weapons which actually pretty much did work, which is kind of cool. But are all of these things like that? Well, not necessarily. But some of them, yes. Like we've spoken of the Makuahutl, the obsidian-bladed cricket bat of the Aztecs. They also had another thing which was used by a great many people right across America, which is known as the atlatl. Now, this is not exactly a weapon in and of itself, because the weapon used is a spear, but an atlatl is a spear thrower. Huge thanks to Endless Thoughts for the roses and the gifts. She treats us way too well. And we are very grateful for that. Thank you. All the likes and the gifts I do appreciate massively. But now the atlatl means that you can, if you're good with it, throw a spear up to 3 times further than just the way you would by hand. Which, of course, with practice means that you can be accurate over a much further distance. Also, if you use the lighter javelin type spear, you can carry 4 or 5 of them, which means you're therefore able to have multiple spear throwings. And it's actually incredibly fast if you practice a bit. So this is a very interesting one that certainly changed the face of hunting and war. The other interesting one, which was also from South America originally, invented by the Incas. You've probably seen this on TV. It's a wonderful TV weapon because of how it works, and that's the bolas. And I actually think I've got a picture of it. Hey, we've reached our live goal, all because of one person. Thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you guys. But yeah, let me put you up one of the pictures that I have saved for tonight, which hopefully you will like. The bolas is basically 3 strings, if that makes sense, tied in the middle, and of course it's not saved in the correct pattern because the format's wrong and it doesn't want to show on this. There it is. So now we have to save it in the correct format. There it goes. And then at the end of the 3 strings, you've got a rock tied on, if that makes sense. Now, the aim of that is you spin it around your head until it's going really quite fast. And once it's going fast enough, when you fling it, it kind of makes a bigger area that then wraps around the target, whips the stones in, if that makes sense, and then, of course, bonks whatever it's now strangled. So you're sort of catching and hitting at the same time. And can you see there? And I get out your way. So that is a bolas. Okay, now you've probably seen them on TV. So you whip them around your head faster and faster and faster like a sling would, but then you throw the whole thing. And it does work very, very well. Hashtag strange bones, hashtag spooky thoughts. We're being teased by Endless Thoughts because we accused her of being a robot, which is not true. She is a wonderful person, but she likes to tease. She has an amazing sense of humor, by the way. But I think that you say that on purpose just to get at her.
No, nothing. It's fine.
Now, of course, the idea of a bolas is incredibly effective. How they came about it, I'm not sure, but you can see that it's the kind of same idea that you would get from a number of other things, such as a sling, such as the boomerang. I have actually seen somebody hunt with a boomerang before, and let me tell you, it's very, very effective. Though do remember, proper boomerangs are, or at least the hunting type boomerangs, don't return. And as I think I mentioned in the past, that the main reason they don't return is because they're buried in you. Just so as you know, that they are a very potent weapon. Of course, different countries, different cultures, but the bolas, as you can see, is definitely one of them. Now, the most effective historical version, I think, which were used by hundreds of different countries, cultures all over the world, and one of the most simple and terrifyingly effective weapons is the one behind me there, and that is a sling. Now, in the Roman army, they used to specifically hire people from the Balearic region who were known for their ability to use slings. And they could fire a lump of lead so hard that it would cut through armor. So just like the Welsh longbowmen with their fame, the Balearic slingers were like that too. And what's really, really, really funny is they would cut words into the lead projectiles that they used. And historically, and I'm going to be rude, I apologize. If you are offended, I do apologize straight up. However, they would literally put on, in Latin, the equivalent of, take this, you asshole, or fuck you, and then use that to sling at the enemy.
Oh, sure. That's crazy.
So, yes, they had a sense of humor. And there are historical equivalents that have been found and put in museums of these actual things that people did, which is kind of crazy but really funny.
It is very funny.
But this alone is not the only interesting thing out there. We have yet more. When it comes to interesting things, so that particular sling behind me is a huraca, which comes from the Incan people, which were made from woven llama wool or alpaca wool. So there you go. Did you know that? They said that the Incan sling could throw a stone with enough force that it could instantly kill a horse or break a sword in half. That's pretty hard. Another interesting one that the Incas brought up were their star-headed maces. So imagine a flat disc cut into the shape of a star with multiple points, stuck flat-topped on the end of a stick, so the points point out. Now, we've seen similar type things used in Europe made of metal, but these guys were the first. And yes, it worked. Now, another one which was very interesting is now not a weapon, but the armor, because they developed Ichcahuipili. The Aztecs developed it, and we were talking about this the other day, Spooky Man, the quilted cotton armor. And they were very, very effective with it. So they got densely woven cotton cloth, which they took 2 layers, and in between that they got unspun cotton stitched into it into a padding. So now you've got this heavy cotton padded armor. And the reason it was better than the armor of the conquistadors is because the Amazon jungle is frickin' hot. And it's easier to wear cotton cloth in a hot environment than heavy metal that gets hotter and hotter in the sun. But also, here's the other reason it was very effective. And now this is specific to place. Remember that most of the weapons that they used were either clubs or stone-type weapons. So they came with not just cutting edges, but heavy impact. And of course, that means that it would absorb impact as well as stop an edge. Yeah, they were clever. It worked. Say again?
I said no, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, Spooky said something, but his audio is low.
Can you hear me better?
There we go. Now I can hear you.
No, the reason I was cloth armor, because of that little grey wall, I saw the kid, the Scottish king.
Ah, yes, Braveheart. Yes, they used cotton woven armor in Europe as well, because the advantage there is it's warm. They've got the opposite problem In snow and in extreme cold, exposed metal is a problem. It hurts. So you need an armor that works to protect you from the weather as well as the enemy. And yes, cotton armor is very effective.
Or stabbing.
That is one of the weaknesses to cloth armor. Stabbing doesn't work as well against a stab. But most weapons, especially in battle, are not stabbing weapons. Stabbing is the kind of thing that developed for the most part for short weapons and for dueling. In actual battle, you don't sit there going 1-1-1 at an enemy. You've generally got multiple enemies, and a sweep is far more effective. So most weapons are not stabbing weapons. They're slashing or chopping weapons or impact weapons for that very reason. So cloth armor in battle, absolutely.
Yeah. Then material. Cloth armor, 1.5 years. Not that too old.
Well, the failure of cloth armor in battle is against archers. I'm stabbing you from over here. There's where you fall apart. However, it really did work. And of course, it's very, very comfortable, and it doesn't rust. Apparently, it could absorb the impact of all their weapons, but even the bullets of the early muskets that the conquistadors used. So even early bullets. Obviously, it wouldn't manage against modern things. Johandre, hello. But for the time, it did what it was meant to do. So, you know, if it works for what it's meant to do, there you go, you've succeeded. Hey, Johandre. Now, another interesting one was from Chile, and they went for leather armor. And apparently, it was developed specifically against the conquistadors. And they would make it with hardened leather and whalebone. And the reason that they did it is that their steel couldn't penetrate it. It was developed to stop the conquistadors, and it worked. Just like that. So, inventions that work. Now I'm going to give you another one which I think is just for you, Mr. Spooky. Because the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas didn't only use quilted cotton. They also used woven fibers and wood, which also was very effective. And these ones were used by the highest ranking warriors, the eagle and jaguar warriors of the Aztecs, for example, because also you could put elaborate feathers and animal skins on them to let the enemy know, hey, this is us. And then you would be more scared, which is leading into another very unconventional set of weapons. But before we do, the Chavin civilization used to use a number of interesting armors in the same way, and they were made to make you taller and had elaborate masks on top. Just to scare you. Now let me see if I have a picture of some of these as well, because they're actually pretty cool. We like cool, but obviously it does depend on whether it allows me to put it up. None of these pictures, disclaimer, none of these pictures are my pictures. I stole all these pictures to show you from historical sites. They are not my pictures. So if anybody says, yeah, but are you used to these? No, they are not mine. They never were mine. They are not meant to be mine. They are from historical records, for the good thereof. Just so as you know. So I'm not claiming ownership in any manner or form. I'm just saying that they are here to show you. But I'm going to put this up because it's cool. These are not mannequins. They are suits of armor.
That's creepy.
Now, if you look at the 1 second from the left, the face is actually almost the shoulder pads are halfway up your face, and you're looking through the holes in the neck region.
That's very disturbing.
It is, well, that was the point. Which leads on to the next set of weird weapons for you. The first of which is a conch shell. Now, a conch shell is a trumpet. How is that a weapon? Well, it makes such a weird noise that it terrifies the enemy.
Yeah, very cool.
An evolution of this is the Aztec death rattle, which is a kind of whistle. And if you've ever heard one, they are creepy as hell.
I think
It's-
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Like a weird screaming noise.
Exactly. And they were used for battle. But now, not only in South America, the Polynesians used the conch, but you know who else used something like it? Well, the Irish. The Irish had what they called a war harp.
A war.
And it was a very large harp that you put it in the wind on top of a hill, and it made a weird jangling noise that was quite terrifying. And it sounded like ghosts coming. Now, I want you to imagine there you are in your army about to move out against an enemy. You're already a bit tense because, you know, you're going to battle. It's foggy as hell. It's early morning. It's still a bit dark. You can't see 2 feet in front of you. And all of a sudden you hear this weird screaming sound. I mean, right there, it's time to go home.
Yeah, sorry.
So, yeah, these things were very effective in terms of they worked. Now, the next interesting thing, which may or may not have worked, was a thing that was used by a couple of different cultures and countries. China did, Japan did, the Aztecs did. And what they would do is they would make sure that they were upwind of the enemy and then throw into the air what was basically cocaine. So now your enemy is baked and starting to see dragons.
Pretty effective.
And everything is terrifying. Then you start playing your Aztec death rattle. Now, remember, most people were pretty superstitious in those days. So there you are, sky high, don't know how, terrified out of your skull, about to go to war, seeing dragons, and you hear this death scream. I mean,
Terrible.
right there, you've got problems.
I think you will enjoy a massive dopamine.
Well, that's the other possibility. The few that remained were so stoked on whatever that they were just like, we're going to do this anyway. You know, but for the majority, it would have been a bit much. So, weird weapons of war. But we have yet more. People are strange. So we've spoken, of course, about things like the macahuitl, which was very effective. But are there ones that aren't effective, and why? Well, they vary. Just by the way, and so that you know, the Makua Hutl was also known as the obsidian chainsaw because of how effective it was. Just so you know. Here's one for when you want to, you know, get your groove on in peacetime, but be effective in wartime. And this was developed by the North American Indians, the pipe tomahawk. So you can use it for smoking something good, be it diplomatic, ceremonial, or recreational. And yes, we do know that they did have recreational tobacco. Not necessarily the same as what we use these days, but they had it. But it also was very effective in close quarters combat. So you could use this for multiple things and multiple times. Weird as it was. And it did work. Now, an interesting point, by the way, you've heard of the word assassin, right?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Well, in the Kyrgyz mountains, in the Asian subcontinent somewhere, I'm not sure, it's sort of in the middle. I looked it up once. There was a particular group of people, and they were known as the greatest assassins in the known world. Just as the ninja of Japan was that side, in the Asian area it was these guys, the Kyrgyz. And they were known because of their specific use of hashish before going on a contract or into battle, because it made them feel no pain and gave them maximum courage. Yes, they had a bong before a contract. And they were known, because of their use of hashish, as hashishasins, the users of hashish, which developed into assassin. And that's where we get the words from. So hashish is very effective for combat because it calms you, it focuses you when you use the right strains. It will allow you not to feel injury, which means you're more effective during. Questionable afterwards, but remember, these guys were fanatics. They would complete a contract no matter what, even if they died. So they would toke themselves up with a good bowl and then guarantee their contract. So there you go. The pipe tomahawk, very effective for the Native Americans, certainly used in other places as well. The next interesting one is one which doesn't work in certain places. So if you took this weapon to South America, or at least the upper part of South America, it would fall apart. This is a laminate bow made by using certain forms of resinous glue to stick bone together in a certain way.
I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, cool. Now, the reason it worked where it did was because it was cold enough that the glue stayed hard enough. And when it stayed hard enough, you could create even a full recurve, which means that when the bow was unstrung, the bars of the bow would bend forward in a full circle so that the tips touched. So that when you pulled it back around, short though it was, you could get up to a 160-pound bow, which means that because it was very short, you could fire it from horseback. And of course, it was the Mongols who developed it. And they were so effective that they could hit a moving target while they themselves were traveling at full gallop in the opposite direction, the size of an apple. That's impressive. So yeah, they developed this bow incredibly strong, and of course it was therefore incredibly expensive and prized. But because of the nature of the bow, if you brought it to a very hot country, it would fall apart. It would not last because of the nature of the glue. However, they then have also a version, not quite as powerful, made from the horns of a bighorn sheep that was developed by the Shoshone in the mountains of North America, and this one was temperature resistant. So not quite as powerful, but still very powerful and very durable. And they laminated together horn using the reverse of the curve of the ram's horns to make the curvature of the bow. And strong, resilient, effective, and could penetrate even steel armor of the time. Very clever stuff. Now, the next one to talk about is a weird one, which was found on the very north among the Tlingit people, which are a kind of Eskimo, I believe. And this was flexible wooden slats, creating a kind of bulletproof vest. And it worked. And it worked even against early guns, just the same way as the bamboo samurai armor, which is basically the same thing, wooden slats, also worked even against muskets. And it was only when they developed better guns that the armor became ineffective. So yeah, bamboo armor works. And if you've ever had to go and chop bamboo, if it's dry, it's damn tough. So wooden armor, and of course bamboo is very, very light, which means you can have an effective, nearly bulletproof vest that's incredibly light. And there was an interesting YouTube video I saw the other day where some guys used Kevlar thread, which it's like 800-pound test thread, and they wove it through so the threads aren't exposed through bamboo, and made a modern bulletproof vest with bamboo that would at least stand up to small caliber handguns.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is impressive right there. It would take a whack from an axe or a machete, and at least small caliber handguns it would take as well. That's impressive.
These look modern.
Yes, a modern version of an old idea that really works. But do they always work? Well, sometimes. Sometimes not. We know that the Native Americans would use hatchets. They were very, very popular. Stone clubs were very... And let's face it, a stone club is a club. There you go. That is a Tlingit slatted armor that we are being shown by Spooky right there. And
This is for bulletproof, bamboo bulletproof armor.
say that again. I didn't hear it.
I searched for bamboo bulletproof vest.
Yes, bamboo bulletproof. And that particular one is a reproduction of the old Tlingit armor. So way back then they had things that worked, and they work today. That good. I had the same picture and I was about to put it up and you beat me to it. Ha ha.
You should let me co-host and show images.
Oh, you'll be very, very welcome to. Maybe we'll do that for the next one where we have a lot of pictures like this, and we can get a range. Now, wooden clubs, hugely effective simply because you can get a stick anywhere. If you can get a stick, you can make a club. They are very effective. You can use them as walking sticks as well, which makes them multiple use. The club is probably the most basic weapon ever. However, there are other versions which are equally effective. Now, think back a bit. If you've ever seen pictures of the early settlers in America, they would have the old flintlock rifle, and they were long. Okay, yes. If you stood one next to you, they would reach at least your shoulder. So they developed one that the stock was heavier wood and even had a spear point attached so that you could use your gun as a club. Now remember, flintlocks were muzzle loaders, so the rate of fire was slow. I can fire a shot, but then I have to take it down, clean it through, repack it with your cotton wadding and your powder and your ball and ram it down, take the ram rod out, prime the pan, get the flint in, then only fire a second time. So by that time, if I missed my shot, the enemies run at me. So they developed them to have a bladed club at the end of the stock so that if I miss you, I can still beat you to death with a gun stock.
I saw a movie the other day. I thought it was ridiculous. I think it was back in the 1700s.
Okay.
They also had those guns with a sword attached, and they shoot and then they have to reload. And the way the battle went, I thought it was ridiculous. Nobody would do that. And it was the Americans and the British who
Well,
were at war
they were
close to
used.
each other, and they shot each other. First, they would let one team, one side shoot, then they would start reloading, while the other team then aimed
Yes.
and shoot. Then they would stop, reload, and then shoot. Which
Well,
I thought it was ridiculous.
It was. That was how battles were done, and the ideal was to have 3 ranks: kneeling, standing, loading. So the kneeling fires, moves to the back. The standing kneels and fires. The loaders,
It was ridiculous.
it
They would
is.
stand still and get
Yes. It was very ridiculous. And yes, they would use the short sword as a bayonet. It would plug onto the end, and then charge the enemy to using the gun like a spear. And yeah, it was dumb. And here's where things for us South Africans is very interesting. There was a comment made by a kid. He was 13 years old in the Anglo-Boer War Army. And he was writing to his uncle who was fighting somewhere else. And now you remember the British wore their bright red tunics with the crossed white bandoliers. And he basically says to his uncle, why do they give us a target to aim at? And why do they just stand there? Because now he's there in his khakis, hiding behind a rock with his long-range hunting rifle, and there's the British marching up, and he's like, well, they give me a target to aim at, I can't miss. It's easy. And that was literally why the British had to change, because that kind of warfare was designed on hand-to-hand warfare in medieval armies, where it worked. It didn't work once you start using guns, but they never changed at first. It was dumb. And everyone else was like, we're doing guerrilla warfare. You can march all you want. And it was ridiculous. So that is absolutely an example, not of the weapons failing, but of the thinking failing.
Well, today's drone warfare.
Well, now all we do is guerrilla style. I mean, that's how it is. Now, another one which I've always found ridiculous was the use of lances. Now, it only works in war if you have a lot of people using them all at once.
Yeah, like the Vikings. They used to use their.
Well, spears are different because they're shorter, but a lance can be up to about 4 meters to 6 meters long, and they're used from horseback. Now,
Okay, no, okay, I understand what you're talking about.
it works if I've got armored knights on horseback, a lot of them in a row, and I charge the enemy, and the ground is flat to allow horses to charge. Horses are not that good at going fast if the ground's bad. It's a fact. Okay. So this is actually something which developed mostly in civilized knightly combat that was more display than anything else. Tournaments, games, where the lance worked, but for actual war, not good. Where they really... They failed in Braveheart. Yes, because they used a pike. Well, the pike was developed against cavalry because, yes, it was too long for use to hand-to-hand combat. But what the advantage is, I take a basic tower shield, which is a square shield that I can hide all of me behind. I stick the back end of the pike into the ground to make it rigid, and I rest it at an angle. So if a horse tries to charge it, it's running into a giant blade. And if I've got, like Braveheart had, 500 guys doing the same thing, the horses cannot hit you, which means you've taken out one complete weapon system in one go. And then as long as I've got my axe or sword, axes work really well in medieval combat, which I can have through my belt while I'm handling the pike. Once I've got rid of the cavalry, I drop the pike, run forward with my shield and axe, and engage hand to hand. So hugely effective in that situation. Not in modern warfare, but it was designed to stop cavalry. And it worked. And that's why cavalry stopped being used. Because cavalry was no longer useful. Because of people like William Wallace, who said, you want that? I got this. So yeah, you're dead right. Braveheart was a very, very good movie for a lot of reasons. Now, a number of things which may or may not be as useful, but were believed to be useful, were things like the Native American medicine shields. And this was popular in warfare all over the world in different ways, where you basically had magic attached to your weapons or armor. The Vikings used it. We know that there are a number of bind runes which are designed to stop an enemy. The Helm of Ore, that they call it, is a bind rune that the Vikings used specifically to protect against especially arrows. It made you tougher and luckier in battle. So all over the world, magic has been used in combat to defend. So yeah, we see it in the Native American medicine shields, we see it in the Viking bind runes, and in many of the other things as well. We know in South Africa there was, when was it? It was during some of the big riots where a number of the Isangomas developed a paste that if you put it on your skin, the bullets will bounce off. And they sold a heck of a lot of it. Yeah, it didn't work. Yep, it didn't work at all. But they sold a lot, and the customers didn't go and complain because, well, they couldn't. But we won't go there. But yeah, there are many such. We shouldn't laugh. It's bad. Shame. Now, as we go along, let's talk about some crazy ones that are even more modern. Some of them were great, some of them not so much. Cell phones were originally developed for war because they're mobile. The modern Humvee, which the Americans like to say they developed, was actually based, the modern version anyway, on the South African Rattle, which proved to be the most effective military troop maneuvering land vehicle in the world. And pretty much all of the modern ones around the world are based on the South African Rattle because it works. And it is hugely maneuverable. Before that, most places used tanks. And the tracks do not work in a number of environments. You get it muddy, you get it wet, you get it sandy, and it don't go so well. But the Rattle can go over anything. So yeah, South Africa, us. True fact. And of course, you're probably thinking of the Blesbok, also us, which inspired a number of small planes, very effective. The Rooivalk, one of the most effective helicopters anywhere, and were snapped up and sold off to military developers in other countries for huge amounts of money. Thank you very much. But I didn't get any of it, alas. But there is a lot. But now let's talk about the phaser. What is a phaser? Well, we know that in Star Trek, Captain Kirk's got a phaser fit to stun. Well, the US Department of Defense developed what they call the Personnel Halting and Stimulation Response Rifle, a non-lethal weapon designed to disorient and stun enemies, a light-based gun, a phaser. Designed for use especially by law enforcement, it temporarily blinds enemies with focused laser beams. The lights, operating at alternating wavelengths, disorient people, rendering them unable to stand even. It doesn't inflict any permanent damage to eyesight. It is a real weapon and it works. How about that? You wanted weird? Yeah. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you get a really good quality and sadly very expensive modern flashlight that has over 2,000 lumens, and you put it on the strobe mode, it does the same thing. Which means you can have a torch, and most of these things, you've got multiple modes. You can have it at a much lower setting for general use. They are incredibly effective as a self-defense weapon. It really does work. and it can disorient some people so much that they even become nauseous.
Or they can faint.
They can. You're perfectly correct. So, phasers are real. So all you Trekkie fans out there are like, yay, nerdgasm. Sorry. Now the next kind of weird ones. This is one that was kind of a failure. They are not used anymore. And this is the golf ball grenade. Properly called the V40 fragmentation grenade, used by the military from the 1960s right through to the 1980s, and was made because it's small. It's only 2.5 inches high and 1.5 inches wide. Very, very small and easy to carry. Uses pin and lever just like a standard grenade, and quite deadly. Lethal up to a radius of 5 meters, dangerous up to 300 meters from its point of impact. The problem was that they were A, small, so they had a small fuse time and tiny pins, and they were effective up to 300 meters. So if you drop the damned thing, yes, you can see where that's going. So they were discontinued because they were effective. Take that. Yes, oh. Oh dear. Next thing is the corner shot rifle and grenade launcher. How do you fire around corners? If you're in an urban setting, this was a problem. So this gun was developed to fire around corners. It's a semi-automatic pistol with a thing you can fit on to make it a grenade launcher. A hinge in the center of the weapon enables the barrel to pivot left or right, while the handle and trigger remain fixed and stationary. A camera affixed to the weapon allows you to see where you're shooting around corners. And it's so popular that military and law enforcement agencies in 15 countries are now using them, because you literally can fire around corners without exposing yourself.
It's really cool.
It is kind of cool. Very weird, but cool. Then you have the active denial system, non-lethal, made to disperse crowds, transmits an electromagnetic beam that creates a burning sensation on the skin, making them run away.
Not bad.
Right? Called the goodbye effect and a heat ray, the active denial system can heat up water molecules on the person's skin to 130 degrees Fahrenheit from 500 yards. So a yard is about 1.5 meters, which is pretty good going. So nearly 1 kilometer. And Fahrenheit, I think it would get to around 50 odd centigrade, if I'm correct. Am I right there?
Why are you using American terms?
Because that's what my notes have got. It's an American invention and they don't speak English.
Yeah.
So not hot enough to damage, but really to be uncomfortable. You won't like it. Controversial, considered by some to be a form of torture, but very effective if you need to clear a place. And it will probably be eventually used as a preference to things like tear gas, which can cause permanent problems, rubber bullets, which are increasingly becoming problematic, and water cannons. So maybe. Now another one which is very James Bond, the Aromatics Digital Revolver, a digital safety mechanism that only works to disengage the lock on the gun if you have the correct wristwatch on.
Oh wow.
The wristwatch only unlocks the gun if you unlock the wristwatch with a fingerprint. So it's keyed to you. You have to be wearing your watch, you have to unlock the watch, and then the watch unlocks the gun, and then you can fire, which means that nobody else can fire the gun. They can steal it, they can pick it up by mistake, the kids can get hold of it, they cannot fire the gun.
That's really cool.
I like the idea of this because it means that it's useless, and if you took my gun off me, you can't shoot me with it.
Yeah, that makes sense to you.
Right? Very clever. Now, an interesting one that's come up as well, also modern, that the US Navy is developing is a railgun. It's an electromagnetic railgun that can fire a projectile faster than the speed of sound. Officially called the 8 megajoule electromagnetic railgun. It's a mounted shipboard weapon that is 8 times faster than the speed of sound, 5,000 miles per hour. That's about 10 k's an hour. That's fast enough. What could you use it for? Well, anything you wanted, I should think. I mean, anything that can shoot that fast will shoot very far, and you can eventually basically just wipe out a legion with it, with one. It has the potential, because it's so powerful, to even launch a spaceship into orbit. How's that? That's pretty scary. Yep, so science fiction. Say again?
You're talking about that spinning thing. It spins like this and then it shoots up in the air.
No, that's a different system. That's the centrifugal launch system. This is literally a gun. It's just that powerful. But speaking of powerful modern, there are a number of other things. So how about the TALIS? The Tactical Assault Light Operator Suit. Developed by a number of universities working together, a robotic exoskeleton that you can wear while in combat zone, enabling soldiers to withstand bullets, be fireproof, have your vital signs monitored, see in the dark. Yep, Iron Man is gonna be real.
That's also cool.
They are able, through animatronics within the suit, to increase the soldiers' strength, speed, and agility. They can't fly yet. They are allegedly working on a version of liquid metal that, when done with an electrostatic shock, hardens into a solid, making a armor that happens to exist when you need it and not otherwise. They are working on flight for it as well. Will they get there? I don't know, but damn.
I saw some exoskeletons. It's not armor or anything. It's just, it helps them to improve, to pick up heavy things.
Yes.
There's an exoskeleton that helps you to run, so you actually run faster with it.
Well, there's a version that a medical university were developing. I don't know if they ever did. But the idea was, say you're a quadriplegic. Your brain's functional, but your body isn't. This exoskeleton basically allows you to get up, walk around, do all the normal things you do, even as a quadriplegic.
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really
I
cool.
saw a guy moving an arm, robotic arm, with his mind. He's got a neurochip installed.
Yes,
So there's 12 people that's got neurochips installed already.
yes, I believe
Um,
so. Now,
He's not the only company that's doing that.
here's the interesting thing. Let's say I sent somebody to, okay, Pripyat. You know Pripyat. Okay,
Country.
in Russia, they had the nuclear meltdown at that nuclear station. Okay, Chernobyl.
No. Oh yeah.
Okay, the town nearby is Pripyat.
Oh.
They evacuated it totally, but they still needed to go in to deal with the situation. And all the firemen that went in to deal with the situation basically died of radiation poisoning. That it was just, you had to do it, but it was a death sentence. Now, imagine if I could sit at home with a headset and go in remotely as a robot, doing exactly what I would do as a fireman, but not actually being in the danger zone.
That'd be pretty cool. Like, what they
Well,
were-
it's already happening.
Well, this is where it's going. I mean, the options are incredible.
Technology is even available for you. I mean, I see lots of farmers, they sit inside their house while they spray things all over their farm. with a
Yes.
drone. Remote technology is a
The remote technology is, but now we're talking to a degree where I could wire my mind up to a full suit that will function. If I think to move my hand, the suit will move its hand as dexterously as I could as a person. So literally, I go in as a person, just not actually there. Meaning that I can be in incredibly toxic environments, dangerous environments, safely, but still do exactly the job as a fireman or as a policeman or whatever in a toxic environment without ever risking myself.
Well, there are people operating the Tesla Optimus robot. Not
Yes.
with a neurochip. They've got handhelds, and so they walk around with a robot.
Yes. So we're getting to that point. We will. Now, just to give you Terminator flashbacks, what if you made a robot with AI like that? And what if it turned bad?
not possible.
It's possible. I mean, it's
It's
gonna
possible. It's going to happen. You are not wrong. So, how wise is it to make these incredible inventions? In some ways, very, very good. In some ways, yeah, I'm a little bit worried about it. Just saying.
It's not good. It's really not good. It's like developing a bomb and then exploding it in your face so you can see how it works.
Well, we've done that in history many times.
Yeah.
So, you've heard of an
AI and exploding it in their faces.
SUV, right?
Yeah.
Most of us think an SUV is a suburban vehicle, and it is. It is also a sentient unmanned vehicle, which they are trying to develop. Unmanned aeroplanes, bomb removal buggies, undersea mini submarines, and surveillance robots, all unmanned, but not piloted, sentient. And they're working on it.
Creepy.
Yes. Well, here's another one which you won't like. The vomit gun.
Ugh, okay.
Did any of you ever see the movie Minority Report?
No.
In that movie, the police had a kind of baton called a sick stick, and anyone touched with the baton would throw up. Well, a real-life vomit gun was invented in 2007, and it uses radio frequency that impacts your hearing and equilibrium, and you will immediately get very, very severe motion sickness and immediately throw up. Okay, now this was also developed alongside an intelligent optical system to create an LED incapacitator that uses a rapid pulse of colored light to cause dizziness, headaches, and vomiting. Now, put them together onto the vomit gun, and yes, I will stop you from rioting. No, I don't want to clean it up.
Sounds terrible.
It does, doesn't it?
Hot fest.
Absolutely that. However, this is not all. We have more. As we mentioned, we had the bat bomb. We also had one developed by the US Navy where they strapped bombs to dolphins and trained them to swim under enemy ships and then detonated the bombs to sink the ships. Yeah, I not only don't try it at home, don't try these things anywhere. I'm not impressed with them. However, there was also another one called the Panjandrum, a contraption that consisted of two wheels connected by a drum-like axle with rockets on the wheels to propel it forward. Packed with explosives, it charged the enemy defenses unmanned, smashing into them and exploding, creating a breach large enough for a tank to pass through. However, when it was tested, things didn't go as planned. The 70 slow-burning cordite rockets attached to the two 10-foot steel wheels sparked into actions, and for 20 seconds it was very impressive, and then they fell off and flew off in all directions instead of going the way it was meant to, and everyone had to flee for cover. The Panjandrum, during the chaos, charged around the beach that they tried it on, completely out of control. It was never used in war. Yes. The Wehrmacht in 1940 recovered a strange remote control prototype vehicle out of the River Seine. It was designed by a French vehicle designer, Adolphe Kegressen, and the prototype inspired the Germans to build their own remote-controlled vehicle as an anti-tank weapon, which developed into the Goliath tracked mine, a 1-foot-tall, 4-foot-long tracked vehicle that could carry around about 60 kgs of high explosives. Steered remotely, you just drive it under the enemy tank and detonate. However, the problem was the remote control was done by cable. So you needed a 2,000-foot long cable between the driver and the vehicle.
Okay.
That's a problem. They also learnt quickly that if you cut the cables, the Goliath didn't work anymore. It only traveled at 6 miles an hour, couldn't get over very much rough terrain at all. But they did make 7,000 odd of them, and they used them in a battle during the Warsaw Uprising and on Normandy. It wasn't really a success. But they were used by US soldiers to amuse themselves after the war.
least it served a purpose.
Yeah, that's about all we can say. But it was a good idea. And we know that nowadays we have effective ones. In 1944, you got the Fugo balloons, invented by Japan, launched paper lanterns carrying explosive devices that floated silently across the enemies and then exploded. That was the plan. They launched the first balloon on November 3, 1944, and maybe 1,000 of the Fugo bombs reached North America. After the war, records uncovered that maybe 9,000 were launched in total. Only one actually killed anybody. So not as good. Sadly, it was a pregnant woman and 5 children that this one killed in Oregon. They were playing with the balloon which they found, and then it blew up. The problem was we don't control the weather. And that means that to this day, around 8,000 of these balloons are somewhere. We don't know where. It is lost. So, yeah, not a good thing. The next brilliant idea was exploding rats. Developed during World War II for the Special Operations Executive, about 100 dead rats were sliced open and stuffed with plastic explosives, stitched back up. They were then placed near strategically identified boilers. Discovering the dead rat, somebody would pick it up and throw it into the boiler in order to get rid of it, and there'd be a massive explosion. Unfortunately, a container of the dead red rats were intercepted by the German enemy, and the Germans were like, yeah. It did kind of work, because now the Germans were now scared of dead rats, and they started trying to find spec op rodents all over, and it caused so much effect that it was far better than the actual bomb would have been.
That's funny.
Now here's another sad one for you.
This was during World War II,
Yes,
and the British.
yes, well, the Allies, British, Americans, French.
So there were rats that explode.
Yep. Now, how about pigeon-guided missiles? B.F. Skinner, a very important psychologist, trained birds to pull levers as part of his psychological research. So the army said, why don't they guide the bombs? You teach the pigeons, basically like a homing pigeon, to fly to a specific point, put the pigeon in front, and get them to guide the bomb to the point. Once they recognize the target, which they're trained to recognize, they pick the screen. When they all pick together, it adjusts the flight power of the missile so it goes into the target. It worked. It really worked. Unfortunately, it never went into the war. Well, fortunately if you're a pigeon, but it actually does work. Then, of course, you have the interesting weapons that the Nazis developed, the Wunderwaffen that they developed, and one of them was successful. They tried a number of things, including a flying saucer and varying other things, but they also developed the Windkanon, the wind cannon, And instead of launching flak or projectiles, it was designed to disrupt low-flying enemies with a blast of air. It was a 35-foot cast-iron tube with a 3-foot diameter. When fired, an ammonia-hydrogen mixture exploded in the chamber, forcing a rush of air through the cannon. And it could disrupt an aircraft in theory within a range of about 150 meters. Mounted on a bridge over the river Elbe, it basically was just a minor inconvenience to aircraft. But it did work, just not well enough. They also developed the Krummelalf, a kind of bent barrel version of a gun to shoot round corners. It didn't work well at all because the bullets kept breaking in half and it only worked at short range, and the periscope mirror didn't work properly either, and you had to choose whether you were going to get a left-handed one or a right-handed one. So unlike the modern version, it didn't work. But we have a Kami that has joined us. That was a pretty cool mask. Now, they also developed a number of tanks. So during World War II, again, New Zealand was worried about a full-scale Japanese invasion. And New Zealand would be on its own. So they started to create their own domestic version of a tank. And Bob Semple, the New Zealand Minister of Works, came up with a plan. And basically it's a 6-ton bulldozer with a number of corrugated sheets of iron on it, a little bit of protection to the 8-person crew. But yeah, this thing looks like somebody made it in their backyard. So I'm going to call that as probably a failure. But hey, they tried. Now,
My ears.
yeah, how about a military-grade stink bomb?
So bad.
Yes, they found a formula that was so bad that it could be combined into a spray that was so foul, anybody sprayed with it would just be like overcome. Packing was a problem. Leakage was an issue, as you can imagine. Once they managed that, they were working on getting it useful, but the war ended before it could be used. So not a great success there. But interesting, if nothing else. But we need something more. We need some interesting things. So Europe's done a bit. The Maximilian grotesque helmets from Germany, which had etched and shaped or comical visages, animals, demons, and more. These have been used not only in Germany, but all over the world. We know that the Japanese have demon masks. The Germans used them. The English used them. There have been a number. Were they any good? They were interesting. They were made to intimidate. Maybe they did. We still see people using skull face masks and stuff today. So maybe it does work, in all fairness. The next one is one which I do like. It didn't really work well. The gun shield. Mainly it didn't work because they were using a small matchlock, which is a very primitive firearm and hopelessly unreliable. So imagine a steel shield and the gun's in the middle, so that you can fire it while remaining behind cover. The problem is the weapon itself, despite being a short range and not very good matchlock, was still very heavy and not very good because it's short range and pretty crappy accuracy. It was a popular thing for its coolness for a while, and I believe that King Henry had a couple, Henry VIII. So there you go. The next interesting one, which also didn't really work, was the lantern shield. Now this was made for cities, and the idea was it was a shield for a night watchman. So a central gauntlet, an aggressive spike running down the arm, and spikes for catching a blade, and a hook on it for a lantern. Great idea. Basically, it's a spiked shield, but it was too heavy and the lantern fell off or broke, splashing the user with boiling, burning oil. Yeah. No. Now, one which did work incredibly well in its specific environment was the man catcher. And I do believe I might have a picture for you. I will check. And I lost it. Buggery. I do not have my picture of a man catcher. So what I want you to imagine briefly is a long pole about 8 feet long, which is good, okay, not unwieldy. At the end of the pole, you've got a nearly complete circle with bits that stick off to the side so that, because it's spring steel, if I push it forward, it will go around something. On the inside, pointing inwards, are spikes. And the idea is, if you're now rioting and causing trouble, I push it over your neck. Now, having gone over, it can't come off unless you get two people to carefully pull the arms apart. One person cannot do it. And if you try and struggle, the spikes will stick into your neck. So in terms of catching an individual person, it worked really, really, really well. And believe me, you would become very careful.
Can imagine.
I do like your cat ears there. Are those earphones?
The ears.
That is cool.
Ears.
I'm impressed.
Well, got a little Timu. I've got fangs as well that you stick to your teeth.
Okay. So from now on, we shall have to call you Neko-chan.
That's what I was thinking. I was going to tell you. Pretty good
Yes.
quality.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Neko-chan.
I even dyed my hair black to match me.
Dedication.
I know, right?
Support. Okay, now the next interesting design actually came out in the Renaissance and was mostly effective, to be fair, because people started using rapiers, the gentleman's sword, and in defense against it, the sword breaker. It's an offhand weapon, so you use it in your non-dominant hand, while in your dominant hand you have your rapier. And it's got saw-like serrations down the side to catch and trap an opponent's sword and potentially break it. The idea was to control or disarm the opponent's blade, because the rapiers were thinner and more fragile than standard heavy falchions which were used in war. So it was effective in its time and place. However, if I took a falchion to you, it would have been useless because the falchion's too heavy and too wide. But against a rapier, yes, it worked. So some things are useful sometimes, and it was useful then. The next interesting one is the war scythe. Now here is a good example of where somebody picked up an agricultural tool and said, yep. Now the problem with it is once you start swinging it, nobody, not even you, knows where the blade is going. So it becomes a bit difficult for your friends. But it's got a long reach, powerful hacking, and a stabbing capability. So the war scythe was very useful against unprepared, unarmored foes, as we found in certain Polish peasant revolts. However, against properly organized soldiers, it wasn't that great. Now, another interesting one that was used mostly by the infantry came from the Flemish people, and it was called the Goedenacht. Yes, the good night. And it was a combination of a club and a spear. So a thick iron boss at the end of your stick, like a club, with a spike at the end. And it is very versatile because you can thrust and bludgeon, and it is very, very effective against armor. So when you had the Franco-Flemish War, the French got it in spades, and it worked. Weird, ugly, yes, but it works. Now we had varying other clever ideas that have inspired stories, like horned helmets and more, but nobody really used them in real life.
That's more scary looking.
Yes, they're kind of scary, but they're not effective in battle. You want something the weapon's going to slip off, not that will catch things. And therein becomes the problem. Now, one which is incredibly simple is the caltrop. Basically, if you can cut a square metal shape, you can bend it in such a way that no matter how it falls, some spikes will point upwards. And if you're being followed or chased or run at, throwing them on the ground will stop somebody. They are nasty. There were versions used even in the Vietnam War. They work. Another one which was horribly effective was Greek fire, which is essentially napalm. Napalm is not your friend. It's sticky and it burns hot. It's also apparently now illegal in war. Now, one which was kind of effective, it wasn't great, but it inspired very effective, and it was amazing in its time, was the Puckle gun. It is probably the first machine gun, a tripod-mounted, single-barreled flintlock gun with multi-shot capability. It was a bit slow, but it was faster than a standard flintlock, and you could multi-shot just by turning the handle. And that made it amazing for its time.
Wow.
But that is not all. We have more. The next one is one which, in the right hand, okay, is incredibly effective. In anybody else's hands, you, me, the enemy, my aunt, your cousin in Delaware, and everybody is going to get some. Imagine a sword grip with a guard, but instead of a blade, you've got a set of narrow, razor-sharp metal whips. and you spin it around, flicking these whips out.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, in real expert's hand, it's devastating. In everybody else's hands, it's devastating, but not to the right people.
Yeah.
Very interesting, but no. Now that one, of course, comes from India and is called the Urumi. So we have some interesting ones. Another one from India is the Qatar. And I really like the Qatar. It's one of those really, really simple weapons that is guaranteed to work no matter what. Hey, David. Oh, and he's gone. So it's basically a punching dagger. So if I'm holding my hand, the grip goes across, the blade will stick out the front. But it's heavy duty because it's got 2 iron bars that run down the side of my arm, making it a blocking weapon as well.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It's meant to have a blade about 1 foot long, so about that long. It's heavy and it's designed to work against armor especially, and immensely effective on its own or in combat with a sword as well. They just work. Brilliant weapon, but a little weird. But that's not all. We have even more. You remember the Klingon weapons, the battle scythes from Star Trek? Did you know they are based on real weapons?
Oh, wow.
Well, they are. And one of those particular ones, insofar as we know, let me call it the specific, not that one, not that one. I've got several on this and they're very, very interesting. Let's see, Shotel, the Khopesh. Where did it go? There we go. So there was a version of the Khopesh that was developed. Now, a Khopesh is an Egyptian sword, originally mostly made from bronze, but it's weird because it's got a sort of hook. I'm going to have to show you a picture of this one. It's very non-standard, okay? It's not the kind of weapon you would expect, but it inspired when the guys did the Klingon weapons in Star Trek. They basically designed it off this.
Are you showing us the image?
I am, because I've got a really, really good one for you.
Or I can't see it. Okay, maybe I can see it now.
It's about to be put up. It's not up yet, so give me a sec.
Okay.
Blah.
It's just, your screen froze for a few seconds.
It's because I was trying to do 2 things at once, and my computer goes, listen, buddy. And of course it didn't want to. There it is. Ta-da! So that side and that side. So you've got a blade either end and a very strange. So that's a Khopesh, but it's a double-bladed Khopesh, which thereafter inspired your Klingon weapon, and it was real, and it worked very well. It's
Middle Eastern. Or
Egyptian. It is Egyptian.
Yeah.
And it has incredible, because of the curvature of the blade, it's got incredible chopping power, which made it a very, very effective weapon.
Is Egyptian considered as Middle Eastern?
Yes. No. Egyptian is African.
Africans.
Yes. Then, of course, the next interesting one, which everybody knows, is the shuriken. ninja stars because, well, ninjas.
What
But-
about bat stars?
What about what?
Bat stars. I'm not sure what it's called.
Oh, the Batman throwing version, yes. They were taken off of the ninja throwing stars. There are actually several different shapes that are used by the ninja. But the Indian assassins had something a little different called a bagnak. And basically it's a strange kind of knuckle duster, but lying on the inside of your palm, underneath your fingers, are steel claws, which basically were used by a particular form of assassin to make it look like you were attacked by a tiger. And bagnak means tiger claws, and it was literally used to slash people like a tiger did. And
I've actually got one of those. It was my dad's. I was
well,
collecting weapons and stuff. I must look for it for you and show it to you.
I would like to see that very much, because
Actually mounted on a piece of wood, but I'm not sure where it is. I'll have to look for it.
the thing about them is that they are hidden inside your palm. So for an assassin, nobody sees you're armed until it's too late.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I must have. I'm thinking about the right thing then. But I'll have a look and show you anyway.
Cool, I'd like that. Now the next interesting one is called a madu, and basically it's a very, very, very small shield, about 10 inches across maximum, but the handle of the shield is made of the horns of an antelope, and you get one sticking out the top and one sticking out the bottom with a spear point attached at either end, making it a very lightweight, fast but effective blocking instrument with stabbing capabilities. So yeah, useful and effective. Now, people have come up with a number of different versions of these things in the hopes of improving their weapon effectiveness, and we've seen a lot. One of the big deals in hand-to-hand combat was the use of the shield, and of course that meant you could block anyone attacking you, which meant that people then developed the Morning Star. The Morning Star is basically a club where the club part head is not attached directly to the handle, but by a chain, which means I can swing it over a shield and still hit you. And yes, it worked. A little bit difficult to use, a little bit like nunchaku, but nevertheless very effective. So there were a few things that were used that may have been good, just as there were a couple that were not that good. Now, we were talking the last time, me and Spooky here, one of the problems you had in medieval Europe were bears, because they were very big, they were very dangerous, and they were not afraid to come into towns and places to take what they wanted, and they could very easily take you out. So how did you deal with bears? Well, the Germans came up with a solution: bear armor. Not armor for the bear, but armor for you against the bear. Now, what I want you to imagine is a full suit of plate armor. So you're covered in metal, head to foot. But, and here's the good bit, your armor is covered with short spikes, like a hedgehog, all over.
I've seen that.
Yes. And basically that means if the bear tries to grab you, which is what they would do, it will hurt itself and let go. So you hunt the bear with a crossbow and spear and bear armor. And apparently, it really does work. They were used for quite a long time until they ran out of bears. So, yeah, bear armor. Who would have thought it? Now, another rather interesting set of things that may or may not be worthy of discussion is, they call it the Bohemian ear spoon, the peasant cure for a headache. It's essentially a kind of pole arm with a blade on the end. Now imagine a scythe. So normally a scythe, the blade is at right angles like that to the handle. This one, they've turned it up. So essentially you've got a curved chopper on the end of a long stick that really can generate a lot of force. And against anybody unarmored, it's totally devastating. And even against somebody armored, it would be pretty damn effective. So they say it cured you of your headache purely because you don't have a head anymore.
Yeah.
Now the next interesting one is another powerful weapon that really does work, and you can make these at home. Don't try that at home, children. The plumbata. Imagine you took an arrow, just an arrow. You then weighted the end with a big lump of lead. We know Latin for lead is plumba. That's why they were called this. So you take this arrow, weight it at the tip with a heavy piece of lead, and you fling it like a stick. And the lead and the flight cause it to straighten out in flight, which means without a bow, you can throw arrows effectively, and they really do work. So you could carry 10 of these stuck behind your shield as a Roman legionary. You've got your big tower shield, you've got your gladius, you've got your short-range weaponry, and the enemy doesn't know you have a ranged weapon because there are no archers. And all you do is pull this plumbata out and throw it. And it works. And you can throw them up to about 100 meters, which for an infantry is damned effective. With a tower shield, a sword, and 5 to 10 plumbata, you could wipe out an enemy if you had a brigade of soldiers. And they did. It really worked well. So we've got some good ones. We know that some of them didn't work as well as they should. But could you manage to develop something interesting? Let's talk Leonardo da Vinci.
I'll be back. I just need to leave.
Oh, okay.
Won't be long. You can continue.
Okay,
I'll
cool,
catch
cool.
up.
No problem. So, Leonardo da Vinci and the weapons of war. What did he develop? Well, he made the first tank, or at least drew it. I have seen them build one of these, and it worked. Basically, you could fire a flintlock musket all around out of it, and you're protected inside a wooden tank. It did work. It was effective. They also have built another effective one, which was a war chariot that basically the turning of the wheels turns an extension that sticks out the front that has spinning blades on it, which will allow you to chop everybody's legs off. It kind of worked. Not good for you. Do not try this at home, but it did work. He invented some pretty frightening things. He also invented a multi-barreled cannon to overcome the slow rate of fire, which could shoot up to 20 shots. Now we're talking cannon, which is kind of impressive. He then went on to say that even that's not good enough, and he developed a mortar that would fire not only steel balls, but explosive steel balls. Now we're talking back in the Middle Ages here. So these were never made in his time, as far as we know. But it would definitely cause maximum casualty. He had a giant crossbow, which worked. It was 86 feet long and could fire well, I want to say an arrow, but a spear basically, through a brick wall. No problem. That's immensely powerful. Not the fastest rate of fire on that one, but it worked. He had individual flying machine designs, which, yeah, they didn't really work, but his idea was you could take off, fly over the enemy, dropping explosives, and defeat them that way. So old Leo had a number of ideas that were pretty good, we are going to say. Luckily, he wasn't taken seriously, and therefore it never went into serious war production. But now we spoke of the Bagnak. We know that the Japanese had the shuko and ashuko, which were claws for the hands and feet for climbing and combat. We know, of course, that they had the kunai, the armor-piercing knife, which was designed for that. They had the kama, which was a hand sickle, which was then developed into the ksurigama, which was the same thing but with a weighted chain and weight at the end for catching an enemy and then chopping them, and it did work. They had quite a lot of interesting weapons, from innocent type tools. The most awful one is a Chinese one, and I call it awful because I owned one, and it's called a Sunset Kwana, I believe. It's like a nunchaku, but instead of 2 sticks, it's got 3. And the problem is, you get 2 of the bits moving perfectly and then think, hold on, where's the 3rd? Just before it smacks you in the back of the head.
Oh, shit.
Yes, and I know this is true because I had one, and I did, and it hurt. So I'm just throwing it out there. Now, the last thing I want to talk about comes mostly, I think, from Renaissance Italy, because they're very specialized. So these are real weapons that have been found, that people really, really did have in their day, which included the stiletto. So a needle dagger doesn't cut well, stabs very well. Eventually got used as a knight's mercy stroke for killing a downed enemy, but were very popular for assassinations in Renaissance Italy. The gun book. We know that the Venetian Doge Francesco Morosini had a Bible, and if you pulled a certain bookmark, it fired a shot.
Oh, wow.
That's real. They had a staff sling, popular in Britain especially. Basically, it's a sling on the end of a staff, which means that while a sling can hit hard enough to kill, a staff sling can do it 5 times harder. Much further, much harder. Brilliant invention, works incredibly well. Another one that was developed is basically a billhook, which comes from Italy as well. It's a sharpened hook with a spear point. So it's a spear and a hook in one, and it was especially designed to take people off horses. That's what it's for. You pull them off the horse with the hook and you stab them with the spear. And very, very effective in combat, especially against cavalry. So if you're a peasant, it's mostly stick. It's actually a small metal blade on the end. So cheap to make, easy to use, very effective against armored knights. So, yeah, very powerful. And that, my dear people, is for tonight. The end of all that we have done. I see you've put up a brilliant picture of bear armor behind you there. Yeah, you don't grab somebody with spikes like that. That would definitely ruin somebody's day. Very effective. So yes, but we have at least had a break from the paranormal and the supernatural. We will go back to it, of course. But these are some of the very real, interesting, weird things that you can get and wear and ruin somebody's life with. So there you have it. Much thanks for your help there, Mr. Spooky. And thank you to Mickey and Spooky and Endless Thoughts and Jaden, who have made all of this wonderful. We've actually gone half an hour over our usual time. It's been an amazing and interesting live, I think. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, very cool.
It's been fun. And we will get back to our regular spookiness in the next one. I don't know if there's any particular things you guys are interested in that we should look into. Otherwise, I do have a whole list.
This live was pretty interesting. I
Yes.
like learning about different armors and weapons.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed it immensely. It's funny, actually, because a chap locally has asked me if I will teach him and his friends to use these staff, because I have done some staff combat in my time, and I might actually do that and start giving a few lessons in a particular variety of staff combat. It's a 6-foot staff normally, well, 5 to 6 foot.
What do you
There's
do
some
with it?
videos of you demonstrating. Would be cool.
Well, somebody else told me I should do that as well, but the problem is it's very hard to make the video and do the techniques at the same time. So I would, well, I'd need to get somebody to hold the camera. Yes. So if I do start teaching some stuff, maybe I will get them to record a bit, and I'll put it up for your amusement. Me being an idiot. So we shall see. Depends how good you are. But until then, thank you very, very, very much for joining in. I will do my bit. Thank you so much for that, Rose. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. And sleep well, sleep deep, sleep sweet. But as always, sleep with one eye open. And while against all of the weapons and armor, the holy symbol might not be effective, perhaps a stout knobkerrie will. For there are things of all varieties, both natural and unnatural, that go bump in the night, and we wouldn't want them to go bump for you. Good night.
Right, bye.
Cheers, cheers.
When's your next live?
It's Saturday night, isn't it? Tonight. So tomorrow's Sunday. No, tomorrow's Saturday. Probably tomorrow, but it does depend because of certain things. I'll find out. But it should be tomorrow.
Actually, it would be tonight.
Well, yes, it would be tonight.
Already Saturday.
It is Saturday already. So there is that. And apparently we're 3 minutes away from my next reward. So should we talk rubbish for 3 minutes just to see what happens? What do you know about staff combat and how many types there are? Here's a bit of homework for you. Most of us know about Bojutsu, the Japanese form, which is very effective. I've done a little bit of it. Also the short version, which is Jo-Jitsu or Hanbo-Jitsu, but those are all Japanese. The Vikings had Stav, and Stav was based on the shapes of the runes, and it was a combat system that you began using a staff. We get the word staff or stave from stav, meaning a rune. And that then was taken forward from the staff to the cudgel, the axe, the skramas axe, and so on. So it was the basis of their combat systems and how to train combat systems. It was also, of course, a very good way to beat people around the head with a stick. And certain of the stav stuff that I learned, I mixed in with certain African stick techniques, because in Africa we have several stick fighting techniques, and along with a couple of other things, and ended up with a kind of a system which is quite fluid and very nice. And I do like that. That there is...
Nunchuck stuff.
It was specifically designed in Europe, and it was designed to take on people using shields, because it goes over the shield. So very effective against a shield, because you can't easily hide behind the shield. So yes, that is absolutely one. Some say that the Chinese Sunset Quan was designed for the same reason. Shields were never a big deal in Japan. They weren't really much used at all. The closest serious thing that was used as a shield, of course, was the sai, which was developed as a policeman's weapon for use against rogue samurai. So they would use that to stop a katana, which is pretty cool. Same with the tonfa. It was used by policemen mostly, and it was so effective that policemen all over the world to this day use it. We know that as well. So yeah, some very interesting ones in that regard. And I do believe we have hit our target. Yay! And a thanks to, what is that? Mickey Mew sent me a something and I can't recognize what it is.
Yeah.
It's a little picture thing. But thank you for it. I just don't know what it is. Okay, cool. Oh, now I can see it. My monitor's bit for that is quite small. So it's very hard to see. But of course it's a cat. I mean, that's brilliant. But guys, it's been awesome. Thank you so much. It has been a very, very, very nice live, and I've enjoyed your company immensely. And I will see you tomorrow, ears and all. Maybe I should get some ears for my hood.
I think so.
It would be good.
You get fox ears too. These are cat ones, just the fox ears.
What does the fox say? And now I have earwormed you before bed.
Oh, that's Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, guys. Sleep well, sleep sweet. Cheers,
Good night.
cheers.